Well, it's Mother's Day, and so we thought that we would bring more like a little conversation rather than like a preachy message, and we wanted to share something that really matters and is relevant to everyone. So we thought that we would actually speak on relationships, because I know we've all been in our bubbles, and I know that like the best days that we've had in our bubbles are the days where our relationships are going well. And I know that for me, like the worst days is when we're clashing, you know, when things aren't going well in our relationships. And so we want to speak about relationships.
That's right. After being locked down for 6 weeks or so with 4 children and so the 6 of us in our home, there's been plenty of great days and there's been plenty of the other days as well, just like any family. And so just what an awesome opportunity while it's been fresh, trying to think about, well, what's the difference between the great days and the not as great days? That's to put it lightly. You know, what is the difference? And so it's an awesome conversation to have. I think when there's pressure, and the reality is that this, for many families, for many people, and just when we're talking about relationships, we should say this, we're not just talking about marriages or families, we're talking about our flatting relationships, or maybe our relationships with our parents, or just all of the relational dynamics, maybe with our employers, and all the different things we have in our life, in church. The things we're going to talk about today, I think, are going to be helpful to all of that. But here's the principle, is that when the river's low, the rocks will show. And in seasons like this, when we're stuck together for a while in ways that aren't usual, they can create pressure. And when the pressure comes on, it's inevitable that eventually the river will run low and the rocks will show. And I know plenty of my rocks have shown over this time. I don't know, your rocks have shown. Can I even say that?
You can totally say that.
Yep, I can say it because I already admitted my rocks.
Yeah, clearly.
But the rocks will show. And I want to just start by saying that's okay. That's like the ebbs and flows of seasons. That's all right. And when everything's going well, sometimes it can actually, the rocks are still there. It's just they're covered over. And so it's not like what's being created as new rocks. It's just what's being revealed are the rocks that when everything's going good, maybe they don't come to the surface as much. And so if you've had some rocks come up over this time, do not be overwhelmed. Welcome to humanity. We've all got them. And we don't have to be terrified that there are rocks. In fact, it's just an opportunity to be like, oh, there's one. I didn't realize that was there, or I didn't realize that was still there. And here's an opportunity that now I can figure out, what does that mean and what should I be doing about it?
Yeah, I think we could view like the rocks shown as a bad thing, or else we also have the opportunity to view it as not an easy thing, but as a really good thing, because like Joel said, how else will we know that it's there if it's not shown? We were watching Modern Family, which is just so funny, we love it.
But don't necessarily approve of it.
It's actually awesome. But they said on Modern Family, should we just sweep this under the rug as well? And then Cam said, yeah, you could sweep it under the rug so that someone will trip on it later. Like, no one wants a lumpy rug. And so we think it's really good, and it's best if something is revealed, that's a good thing. We can deal with it.
Yeah, that's right. And so we know that agitations, we know that time together, and we know that when we get depleted, we know that when stress is high, we know that these things reveal these things. And so here's the principle we want you to understand. When the river runs low, the rocks will show. But let's not be afraid of the rocks, because ultimately you can never give away something you don't have. That life is not lived relationally from the outside in. Actually, Jesus teaches us it's from the inside out. And that's one of the great benefits of when the rocks are revealed, because we can't bring a level of health to any relationship that we don't first have inside of us. And let's be honest, most relationship problems are not communication problems. They're not technique problems. They're not a lack of skill issues. They're personal issues that we bring to our relationships, things that we have under our rug that other people trip over. So we want to have healthy relationships, but healthy relationships are a result of being healthy people. It's like what the Proverbs say in Proverbs 4, guard your heart, like guard your inner world, for from it flow the things of life. Or guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. It's the place that things flow from. So if we want healthy relationships, it's not about the other person. It's not about our boss, our spouse, our kids. It's not about our parents. It's about first and foremost us, because we're not responsible for them. We are responsible for ourselves. I think you're going to talk a bit about that. But, figure out where's it flowing from. You can't give away what you don't have. You can't have peace in a relationship if you don't have peace. You can't have joy in a relationship if you don't have joy. You can't have fun in a relationship if you're the one that's too serious. That's just a little challenge to me. You can't have hope if you don't first carry hope. You can't have vision unless you have vision. It's got to come from the inside out. And this is really what we want to say is like, maybe what we've got to do is read less books. Maybe what we've got to do is listen to less encouraging posts and less good ideas. Maybe what we don't have is a technique problem or a skill issue or a knowledge issue, but actually we need to do some work on who we are and what we bring to our relationships.
Yeah. What was it you were saying to me the other day that you were reading that like the success of a parent with their child and with their relationship as they're older is directly determined by the relationship that someone has with their parents.
Yeah, I thought that was incredible. That's exactly it. It was talking about how what they've figured out is that obviously we all want our kids to have healthy relationships with us as parents, not just when they're younger, but as they grow up, like in some ways that sort of successful parenting is still having a healthy relationship with your kid when they're older, right? Yeah. And, there's all these books and different things about it, but what it's saying is all it really comes down to is do you have a healthy relationship with your parents? Because how else would they learn to what it means to have a healthy relationship with their parents when they're older unless they can see you have a healthy relationship with your parents as you are older? Which, that's the sort of stuff you don't want to read because it's way too confronting and it holds the mirror up and makes you realize that maybe the problem's not out there, but it's in here.
I love in Ephesians 6 verse 1, it says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right." It says, "Honor your mother and father," which is the first commandment with a promise. The promise is so that it may go well with you and that you will enjoy long life on this earth. Isn't it amazing that it's the first commandment that says, if you do this, there's actually a blessing that is attached to it. It will go well with you. And, I know that there's many of you watching this and maybe it's not possible or definitely not easy to do something to restore and add greater health to the relationship with your parent. But if there is something you can do, if it is possible, then we want to encourage you to do it because maybe your future relationship with your child actually depends on that too. So.
Yeah, I think we've been talking about this week, and one of the things we wanted to share was like in that verse, there's these passages in the New Testament letters that have relationship advice, and I love that. I love that, like our faith in Jesus is not just for spiritual rituals, and it's not just for church time, and it's not just for those things that are obviously spiritual. It's for the everyday things. It's to realize that faith in Jesus is supposed to affect our work, and it's supposed to affect our sleep, and it's supposed to affect our marriage, and it's supposed to affect our friendships. And I love in the different letters that Paul wrote, he always offers, after talking about how amazing Jesus is and all that stuff, he always offers like advice for those practical areas of life. But we've noticed that there's a theme in the way he offers advice, and part of it is you just read it in Ephesians 6, but before that he gives advice to husbands, to wives, to parents, to children, to bosses and employees. He gives all of this advice, but what's interesting is he always gives the advice to the person, never to someone else to give to the person. So he doesn't write, husbands, get your wives to do this, and he doesn't write, wives, get your husbands to do this. Even in that passage he wrote, he's writing to children, obey your parents. He's not writing, parents, get your children to obey you. And what I've noticed is this thing is, he's really saying you're responsible for yourself. You need to take personal responsibility that you have a ability to respond, and the better you can make the appropriate response, the healthier you will be, and therefore the healthier the relationship will have. So isn't it interesting that even in the Bible, he's not writing to parents about what their children should do, he's writing to children about what they should do in relationship to their parents. And this is just such an important principle. The great thing is the more attention we actually give to ourselves is not selfish. It's actually about building a health in us that we might be able to then give away something we have to our relationships that we have. And the more we stop worrying about other people's behavior and we just worry about ourselves. I mean, we know this, right? Like every time I'm more annoyed at you, rather than just focusing on what I brought, is actually it keeps the confrontation rather than heals it. And every time a kid's annoyed at each other, you know.
Yeah, well, like I just think of it like this. If I start trying to control you, I end up out of control because I'm trying to control what is not in my control. And I end up out of control. I end up, this guy, this guy.
I'm probably the one that does it more, so, you know.
No comment. You know, so if we try and control the people in our lives, all of a sudden, because it's like it's blaringly obvious to us, right? They need to change that. And so we start trying to go there. But when we try and control someone else, we end up out of control. We end up out of authority because that is not.
Tell us more about that.
I think we end up out of authority because God has given us the ability, like He's given us, what's it called, babe? Dominion. He's given us free will over ourselves, but not over others. And so we end up out of authority. I think we end up out of grace because he gives us grace for ourselves, but he doesn't give you grace to change somebody else. He actually would prefer to speak to them because he's better at speaking to them than you are. And so I always think like when I try and control somebody, it's like, man, that is a lot of effort for not a lot of gain. Why don't I just encourage them and point them to Jesus because he's going to do a heck of a better job than I am. I think part of taking personal responsibility is resisting the temptation to take personal responsibility away from others. And that's what we do when we start trying to put what we think they should do on them.
Yep. I mean, that's got to be one of the biggest things, right? It's just how often we want to control others. I get why that is because it means that they're the problem and we're not, and we have no responsibility. I've been thinking about this, that there's something people say, it takes two people to have a healthy relationship. But I've actually been wondering whether or not it actually does or not, or whether or not it just takes one person to go, actually, I want a healthy relationship. And I know a healthy relationship is firstly going to start with me. And hopefully this encourages people that are maybe married to people that in this season, you're not on the same page on all different things. I don't think the healthy relationship you desire in the future is on the other side of you both agreeing at the exact same time that you want a healthy relationship. It just takes one actually to go, no, I'm going to lead this in a healthier direction. And the way I'm going to lead it is I'm going to become healthier. I'm going to take ownership for all of my stuff. I'm going to become a non-anxious presence in my relationships, and I'm going to bring a stability and a calmness, and I'm not going to bite and react and all of those sorts of things. I'm going to, by the grace of God, grow in self-control and patient endurance, all these great things you need in relationships over the long term. I'm going to grow in these things, and I'm going to trust that as I grow in them, it's actually going to set a tone, it's going to set a pathway, it's going to bring leadership, and the other relationships in my life, they're going to be inspired by that, and they're eventually going to come on board with that. And I think time would show the more. It actually just takes one to start the process, which I think is encouraging for people.
I actually find that really exciting. I love to do this. I love thinking, okay, I'm going to get up today and I'm not going to say anything discouraging.
You're not going to let me get to you.
And I'm going to, and I love it and I love not announcing it because I'm like, after a day or two or three, all of a sudden there's going to be like a shift in the household and they didn't know it was coming, but I did because I was changing something inside of me. So I think it's fun.
Very good. I think, we've been thinking about this idea, and I think it's the next part of that personal responsibility. There's a proverb in the scriptures. Many people would have heard it. Even if you're not somebody that normally goes to church, you've probably heard this before because it's become just like a general proverb of wisdom. It's out of Proverbs 22, verse 6. It says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are older, they will not depart from it. Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're older, they will not depart from it. I think a lot of that proverb's been misunderstood, and this is just another point in growing healthy relationships, is that we think of train up a child as like discipline, boundaries, those sorts of things. And that's definitely a part of it, but that's actually not what this verse is. This train up a child, the original Hebrew language for train up, it's not a disciplinary like structure, boundaries language. It's actually like a nurturing, like feeding language. It's from the same group of language that it would mean to like breastfeed or where to receive your nourishment. That's actually the idea. And so what we want to do when we're like, for people who are parents out there, yes, do we need boundaries and discipline? That is a part. There is lots of wisdom in the Bible about that. But I think what this is trying to say is teach your children where to get their nourishment from in life, and when they're older, they will not depart from it. It's teach them that they can go to God for themselves. Teach them that they can actually strengthen their own spirits, encourage themselves by the Holy Spirit. Teach them that actually they need to get their validation from God, that they need to get their security in things that aren't other people's opinions. And if we can actually train them up to receive from God what we were designed to receive from God, it creates a stability, an integrity, a health, a peace in us that will lead to healthy relationships, because now we won't be looking for other people to fill voids because we've already trained up our children. And people in flats, people who are friends going on journeys together, people in small groups, we can be encouraging each other in this. Like, we can train each other up on where to go for the right things. And then as we go on in life, we won't depart from it, and it'll continue to produce health and health and health, which I think is awesome.
It's really, really great.
Are you wanting me to keep going?
I kind of do, yeah. Come to this little...
Okay, so we're gonna share a few little practical things. This may be all been a bit ethereal, I don't know, but here's some practical things. Here's some response abilities, some abilities to respond that we all have. They're from the teachings of Jesus. I think they're going to be fantastic. And so if you're writing notes, write these down. If you're engaging in the chats, we'd love to have you engage in the chats. Let us know which ones are particularly doing it for you. We'd love to hear what's really resonating out there. So Katie, why don't you kick us off? How many we got? We got 5 or so?
We've got 5.
Yeah, great. 5.
Yeah, we've got 5. Yeah, I love this. So we have the ability to respond, and that's our personal responsibility, is that, hey, in whatever comes my way, I have the ability to respond in numerous different ways. And so I think what's really important, and especially when we're spending so much time with each other at the moment, when we are hurt, when we are wronged, when someone says something insensitive or just rubs you up the wrong way, we have the personal responsibility to be able to forgive every single time. I love, there's a verse and Peter goes to Jesus and he says to him, if someone does you wrong, how many times do I have to forgive them? And he says up to 7 times. And I love it because I reckon someone had offended him 6 times. And he was like, is this it now? Is it 7? Because that's your favorite number, God. And he goes, no, Peter, 7 times 77. He's saying as many times as necessary. And so even though it hurts when somebody says something that's, hurtful, we have the personal responsibility to be able to respond in forgiveness.
That's right. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter whether or not they apologize.
No.
Doesn't matter, people apologizing and being sorry and repentant is only a condition of reconciliation. It's not a condition of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Reconciliation requires repentance and forgiveness. Our responsibility, if we've been wronged, is to forgive.
Yeah.
It's their responsibility to, and once again, it's understanding each other's roles. Okay, so we can respond to hurt. We can respond to suffering or hard times. We actually have a choice how to respond. And I want to encourage you, just again, even as the season keeps getting deeper and deeper, you have the ability to respond and to choose your response. The reality is that the world doesn't choose your response. The news shouldn't choose your response. Or we're not people just blaming the world. We're people that we have a responsibility. We have to choose how we're going to respond to hard times, to suffering. And I love what Jesus' brother James said, and no doubt he got it from his brother Jesus. He says, consider it pure joy when you go through hard times, because you know that God is at work in them. And I know out there, people are going through incredibly hard times. We know there's people dealing with loved ones who are sick and dying. We know that there's people dealing with job losses and economic losses and huge uncertainty about the future. But we have the ability to choose how we respond. We can get all stressed out in our behavior. We can use the season as an excuse to, for our lashing out or for our anxiety. Or we can go, no, I have a responsibility and I'm going to choose to consider it joy because God's at work somewhere in it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And we also have the responsibility. Jesus says, bless those that curse you. Now, I'm sure many of us, well, I hope you don't have people in your life that says, I curse you. If you do, maybe just,
some voodoo dolls.
Yeah, I don't know, get them out of your life. But I think often we can use statements like always. You always do this. You never do that.
We never use those statements in our home, eh? Never.
Well, never. Yeah. But
maybe we're trying to get better at not.
We are, absolutely. We have to eliminate that from our vocabulary because what are we saying? We're saying you will always be like this. You never do that. And to me, I think that is, it's not an outright curse, but we are kind of cursing that other person. And Jesus says, bless those that curse you. So next time someone says, you always do this, you never do that, I want you to, whether out loud, that could be funny, or just in your mind, in your heart, why don't you pray a blessing over them? Lord, I pray, would you bless them? Would you bless them in their heart? Lord, I pray that you would bless the work of their hands. Lord, I pray that you would bless them in all ways. May they be fruitful. And when you start to bless them, what's going to happen as well is that your heart towards them is going to completely change. And so bless those that curse you. We are able to respond that way.
I know, it's very hard though, especially when people troll me online.
I love his trolls, it's so funny.
or troll the Curate pages. Check out Curate Auckland ones, it's hilarious.
Oh, I know.
But
they don't like female pastors.
But it's amazing how when people do that, how our natural response is sort of like to meet them at their level. But it's that responsibility is realizing we get to determine the level we come in at the conversation at, not them.
Yeah.
And I really like that. Judging. What I'm really saying is we get to choose our ability to respond when other people aren't doing what we think they should be doing or seem oblivious to issues that seem obvious to us. I love what Jesus said. Why worry about the speck in your friend's eye? This is in Matthew 7, when you have a log in your own eye. How can you think of saying to your friend, let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye, when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite, first get the log out of your own eye, then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. There's a couple of things in this passage. The first is, when you're starting to notice specks in others, it's a great indicator you probably got a log. Okay, because when you don't have a log, you don't care about others' specks. You're just worrying about yourself in the best possible sense, not in a non-compassionate, but in just a personal responsibility way. And I know, actually, every time I'm getting judgmental around the home, or why isn't this done, or you can nod, when it builds up of that feeling of out of control, when I'm starting to notice all the specks, I'm starting to learn that it's actually an indicator in that moment I've got a log. It's not the speck. I know you're like, finally, you see it.
I love this.
But, it's like, if I actually put the mirror up, it's like, it's not about those specks. It's about something going on in me that's causing me to only be able to see the specks right now. And if I got rid of the log, it says you would be able to deal with the speck in your friend's eye, but what it really means is when you get rid of the log, the speck's no longer going to be a big deal, because you're going to realize, that's their problem. That's not my problem. And this, you know what I mean? And not crossing the boundaries of what's their responsibility now. So I'm noticing when we're getting judgmental of others, it's an opportunity to respond, not to judge, but to actually go, what is this saying about me and what I need to deal with? Why do I care so much about that, or whatever it is?
Yeah, this might be particularly relevant in this time when we're all spending so much time together. I know, I've been doing so much housework, so much cooking, you wouldn't believe. Hey, so much. And then this guy one day, I hope this is okay. He, started being cleaning the house and stuff like that, which is so awesome. I love that. He's very helpful. But this one day he was being particularly helpful, and doing a lot. And he started trying to tell me that maybe I had missed some things, and I was just like,
I would never do that.
I'm like, it's the log and the speck. It's the log and the speck. Okay.
All right.
He's amazing. He's absolutely incredible.
I'm okay.
And amazing hard worker.
Hey, here's the thing though, right? And hopefully people get this, is that we never pretend to have it all together. Yeah. But here's the thing, is that we've got a better relationship now than we've ever had. And it's not because we're pastors. It's not because of anything like that. We have an incredibly, what can be a stressful life at times. And we've got, kids and we're young and all of that stuff. But we have committed to taking responsibility for ourselves and to getting better each day. And even though sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, that's the reality. And so if you're out there, it's not about arriving anywhere. It's just about being committed to the journey of continually trying.
Yeah. So good. Hey, and this is the last one, and I think that this is so important, is that when we are depleted, it's our responsibility to get refreshed. See, when we are depleted and we feel like our tank is empty, what we want to do, I think quite naturally, what all of us do is we start to look at all of the people that should be filling us. We're like, if they just gave me more attention and filled my tank there, if they just helped out more, that would fill me a bit more. If they did that, I would feel more full. But we have got to realize that we are responsible, that we are able to refresh ourselves. We are able to refresh ourselves. Jesus said, it says in John 7 verse 37, on the day, the climax of the festival, Jesus stood and he shouted to the crowds, anyone who is thirsty may come to me. Anyone who believes in me may come and drink. And so, we can refresh ourselves by going to Jesus. We can refresh ourselves in his word. We can refresh ourselves. Do you know that you can encourage yourself? You might feel discouraged. You don't need to wait for encouragement from the people in your life.
Write a letter to yourself.
You can actually just encourage yourself. Hey, you know what? You are doing amazing. Look at how far you've come. Look at what you've overcome in your life. You can just encourage yourself in the Lord. I think that that's something incredible that we can do.
Encouraging ourselves is actually reminding ourselves of truths.
Oh,
and when
so true.
when that happens, it gives us courage for what's in front of us.
Absolutely. I encourage myself all the time.
Probably because I don't encourage you enough.
No, you're amazingly encouraging, but I just take it as a personal responsibility. He's not going to know the moments that I'm feeling discouraged, and I can encourage myself. That is something that I can do. And like he said, I encourage myself in the Lord. It's with his truth that I encourage myself with. But maybe you've got a spouse or a child or someone in your life that isn't someone of faith, and you're like, well, how do I point them to Jesus? Because that's where we get refreshed. And how are they going to get their tank filled? How are they going to get refreshed in him? And I think we can really lead by example. We can get refreshed ourselves in his presence. We can get refreshed ourselves in his truth and in his word. We can let them see the spiritual disciplines that we have, and we can let them observe that we actually can bear fruit in season and out of season. And what I mean by that is that we can be full and flourishing when things are going well and when they're not. And they're going to notice that and say, hey, how is it that you can do that? And that's when you can say, hey, and share about your faith in Jesus. And so that's something I know that a lot of people are wondering, well, how do I point the people in my life to Jesus when they don't know him?
I love it. So we're saying today, hard times.
Yeah.
Can cause the river to run low. When the river runs low, the rocks will show. Let's not be overwhelmed by that. Let's realize that's actually a gift, because when we see the rocks, it means we have an opportunity to begin working on them by the grace of God. And the gift of that's actually a gift, because if we want healthy relationships always start with first being a healthy person. And so by dealing with the rocks, we can have greater levels of health, which will eventually echo into our relationships. The best way to think about that is, what can we take personal responsibility for in our life? We're given a responsibility, an ability to respond. And there's many, we've only just pulled on a few, but the scripture is filled with lots of wise advice about all the different things we can respond with. One of the things I love about just this whole online thing. And, I don't know how long we've been doing it now, maybe 7 weeks or something. But what I love about it is that there's so many of you joining us. And maybe if you're joining us on online today and you're not a part of one of the physical locations, you should just throw in the chat right now, that's me, we're from wherever. We've never been to a physical Curate building, but here we are, we're tuning in from somewhere else. What I love is that people are joining us from all different parts of their journey. And we've always said at Curate that people can belong no matter what they believe. That what you'll find at Curate is people who love you, want the best for you, and can accept you right where you're at, because we all know that Jesus has accepted us right where we're at. So we don't feel like you need to pretend for us. We don't feel like you need to pretend your marriage is better than it is. We don't need you to pretend your life is better than it is. We actually just love you because God just loves you, and His love is flowing through us. And so if you're a part of our online community and you're in all different parts of the journey, welcome. It's so awesome to have you a part of it. Thank you for taking the risk and tuning in and making the effort. But we also want to let you know that even though we can't gather together physically right now, through this avenue, we can actually lead you to have your own faith. That you don't actually have to have a connection with God through Curate or through Katie or through me or through this avenue. As much as this can encourage you and help you and has purpose, actually God wants to have a relationship with you just between Himself and you. And what I love about God is that He actually is the example of taking personal responsibility. That He recognized that humanity was broken and it was filled with sin because of our rebellion and distrust of God. And I don't need to probably, convince you of how far short you and I fall of God's standard, because I don't know about you, but I fall short of my own standards. So how much more so a perfect and loving God would we fall short of His sometimes? And I feel ashamed and guilty sometimes of just the choices I make or the regrets that I have just to my own standard, let alone God's. So, I know we can be overwhelmed by those things, but God actually took responsibility for that issue upon Himself. He's like, they can't fix this, but I can fix this. Even though they made the mistake, I'm going to be the solution. And I just love that God is the one pursuing us. And so He set out a salvation plan. And 2,000 years ago, He came to this earth in the form of His Son, Jesus. And He lived a perfect life. And He died on the cross for you and for me and for Katie, but probably me especially. He died for us. And He died for us because we weren't able to die for ourselves. In fact, our sin, the Bible teaches us, required paying the price. It needed a punishment. There was an injustice to it, but God wanted to be the justifier. And so He sent His Son Jesus to die in our place, to take the punishment that we deserved, to experience the distance from God that we would have had to experience, and was raised on the third day later because death could not hold Him because He had no sin. So He overcame death. He stole the keys of death. He unlocked death. And so what I love today is because of what Jesus has done, you can have your own relationship with God. Not a guessing relationship, not like I wonder if He loves me, I wonder if I'm going to heaven, I wonder if He hears me. You can have a sure, truth-based relationship because of what Jesus has done. And here's the thing, but we've been talking about responsibility. You can only have a relationship with God. He's taken responsibility to make a way, but you actually have to take the responsibility to respond. What does responding mean? I don't want to get down on you or be heavy on you, but I do want to teach the truth of the Scriptures. The Scriptures say that we've all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And until we're willing to take personal responsibility for the choices we've made in our lives that have offended God and not lived up to the standard we should have, until we're willing to take responsibility for those, we actually can't come into relationship with God. We need to recognize that we have sinned, but Jesus is willing to forgive sin if we would go and seek His forgiveness for it. And so today, if you want to have a relationship with God, it starts by recognizing that you don't, and then recognizing that He's done everything to make it possible. But what we do need to do is to respond in repentance, which is turning away from that life and turning towards God, accepting His forgiveness, accepting His love, and welcoming His presence into our life. So right where you're at right now, I would love for you to make that decision. I know there's many people making that decision right now. If you're making that decision, let us know you're making that decision. Put it in the chat. Yes, that's me. If you're watching through one of our platforms like Church Online, you can raise a virtual hand, click that button, because people want to celebrate with you right now, because you're not just making a decision between you and God, you're making a decision other people have been praying for your life and believing for. So would love to see you responding right now. Isn't that amazing? The people responding is very, very cool.
Incredible.
And Katie's actually going to pray for you all, everybody that's making that decision right now.
Awesome. Hey, you can just repeat after me wherever you are. You can repeat after me in your head or out loud. But the most important thing is that we pray this with our heart. And so, Heavenly Father, I thank you for sending your Son, Jesus.
Thank you for sending your Son, Jesus.
I thank you,
I
Jesus,
thank you, Jesus,
that because of your sacrifice,
that because of your sacrifice,
I have life.
I have life.
I am washed clean.
I'm washed clean.
I am redeemed.
I am redeemed.
I have hope.
I have hope.
You are the way.
You are the way.
You are the truth.
You are the truth.
You are the life.
You are the life.
Thank you for giving me a new life in you.
Thank you for giving me a new life in you.
I am a new creation.
I'm a new creation.
In Jesus' name,
In Jesus' name.
amen.
Amen. It's
Awesome.
very, very
We're
cool.
celebrating with you.